In a world where the stakes are higher than ever, a new chapter unfolds on the Eastern Front. The winter air is not just filled with the chill of the season, but also the anticipation of a looming escalation. As Russia strategically amasses its military might, the very balance of power in Eastern Europe hangs in the balance. What moves will Putin make, and how will Ukraine and the West respond? The answers to these questions could reshape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. We're peeling back the layers of strategy, revealing the potential impacts on the ground and on the global stage. From the silent preparations in the Kremlin to the fortifications in the fields of Ukraine, from the hushed halls of Western power to the front lines where every decision can mean life or death, we're bringing it all into focus. This isn't just another news report. This is a journey into the heart of a conflict that defines our time. Stay with us as we uncover the truths, challenge the narratives, and present the in-depth analysis you won't find anywhere else. You're watching Geoland, where we go beyond the headlines to bring you the world.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
The U.S. is experiencing a significant uptick in crude oil inventories, reaching unprecedented production levels. This surge is reshaping market dynamics. Focus shifts to the Red Sea, a pivotal trade artery. Despite rising geopolitical tensions affecting these waters, the impact on oil prices has been unexpectedly muted. In a strategic response, the U.S. government is actively purchasing oil for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, aiming to mitigate market volatility. Looking forward, the oil market stands at a crossroads. Fluctuations are imminent, driven by complex geopolitical developments and the unfolding Eurozone inflation scenario. Yemen's Houthi rebels, aligned with Iran, have escalated their maritime assaults, targeting ships headed to Israeli ports. Their goal? To pressure Israel into easing its siege on Gaza and to end the conflict that has devastated Palestinians. These attacks are not just a regional issue. They threaten one of the world's busiest maritime routes, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a crucial choke point for global trade, particularly oil and natural gas. Major shipping companies are now avoiding this critical passage, rerouting their vessels at considerable costs and time. This shift is impacting global supply chains and has sent container rates soaring. Israel's southern port of Eilat has seen a halt in maritime traffic, and Egypt, heavily reliant on Suez Canal revenues, faces economic repercussions. The ripple effects extend far beyond, with Europe and Mediterranean states also at risk. The Houthis are asserting their power, seeking international recognition and solidarity with the axis of resistance. In response, a 10-nation coalition led by the United States is forming to counter these threats and secure maritime navigation. As tensions mount, the international community watches closely. The future of this vital trade artery hangs in the balance. Once simple remote-controlled aircraft, drones have evolved. Now, they're at the forefront of military strategy, with the market expected to surpass $100 billion by 2032. Their effectiveness amplified by AI. Drones have become a staple in modern conflicts, reshaping tactics and strategies. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing drones, making them more autonomous, precise, and deadly. AI-driven data analysis improves environmental understanding, enhances communication, and fortifies cybersecurity, propelling drones from auxiliary tools to primary offensive weapons. Imagine swarms of drones, coordinating like a flock of birds yet striking with precision. This isn't science fiction. It's the reality of swarm intelligence. These AI-guided swarms can overwhelm defenses, perform complex military tasks, and dramatically increase a drone's individual impact. The leap into autonomy introduces killer robots, capable of decision-making without human intervention. These lethal autonomous weapon systems are sparking debates over ethics in warfare, as they promise a future where machines decide life and death. Nations are racing to harness this power, with the US and China leading the way. But as these technologies advance, the absence of international regulations raises alarming ethical and security questions. The decisions made today will shape the future of conflict and international norms. As AI continues to transform military drones, the world watches closely. The balance between technological advancement and ethical warfare remains delicate and uncertain. Imagine living in exile for 25 years. For Kim Cheolok, this was life in China until her deportation back to North Korea, a fate she shares with hundreds of others. Her sister, now in London, fears the worst, as North Korean prisons are notorious for their brutality and dehumanization. Deportees, often treated worse than animals, face interrogations, beatings, and starvation. They are forced into grueling positions for hours, a torture not just of the body but of the spirit. The testimonies of survivors speak of unimaginable horrors, a stark reminder of the regime's cruelty. Despite international conventions against torture, China continues its forced repatriations, rejecting the status of these individuals as refugees and turning a blind eye to the atrocities they face upon return. This stance has drawn sharp criticism from the global community and human rights advocates. The United Nations has called on China to halt these deportations, highlighting the severe human rights violations awaiting deportees. Yet these pleas meet resistance from both China and North Korea, with Pyongyang dismissing the allegations as mere propaganda. Families of the detained, usually silenced by fear, are starting to speak out. They hope that international attention can bring some relief, if not justice, to their loved ones. It's a faint hope, but in the darkness of North Korea's prisons, even the smallest light shines bright. As the world grapples with the ethical and political implications of these deportations, the stories of the affected linger, a constant reminder of the ongoing struggle for human dignity. President Zelensky is facing a monumental decision: the potential conscription of 500,000 new troops. This move comes with a hefty price tag of 500 billion hryvnia and raises questions about the nation's economic sustainability and human capital. Zelensky seeks a detailed plan, demanding clarity on financial sourcing and the overall impact on Ukraine's economy. The logistics of supporting such a massive increase in troops are daunting, considering it takes the taxes of 6 working civilians to support 1 soldier. The human cost is equally pressing. As the war of attrition with Russia continues, there's a need to rotate exhausted frontline troops, providing them much-needed rest and recuperation. Zelensky insists on a clear demobilization strategy for those who have been in the trenches for almost 2 years, while lawmakers in the military strategize changes to the mobilization bill, including lowering the conscription age and possibly conscripting women. Zelensky stands firm against mandatory mobilization for women, signaling his cautious approach to expanding the military's ranks. This critical juncture is not just about numbers. It's about the delicate balance between military necessity and the nation's long-term resilience. As international allies watch and support, Ukraine's decisions today will shape not just the course of the war, but its future society. In these times of hardship and heroism, the world stands in solidarity with Ukraine. In Tokyo and Washington, leaders are contemplating a pivotal update to Japan's defense export guidelines. This change could enable the U.S. to receive Japanese-made Patriot missiles, reshaping the dynamics of support in Europe and beyond. As the world watches, Japan's National Security Council considers authorizing shipments of these crucial missiles to the U.S., responding to urgent American requests as its stockpiles dwindle. While direct transfers to conflict zones like Ukraine are off the table, this move grants the U.S. flexibility. It's a strategic balancing act, allowing Washington to support allies with American-made weapons, while Japan replenishes U.S. inventories. Japan's decision isn't just about aiding Ukraine. It's a step towards deeper involvement in global security, driven by the escalating challenges in East Asia. As China and North Korea flex their military might, Japan seeks to bolster its stance, aligning closer with the U.S. and NATO. This move isn't without its complexities. Japan must navigate the moral maze of arms exports, the need for robust defense against regional threats, and the economic implications for its industries. The world is watching as Japan balances its defensive needs with its growing role on the international stage. As Japan considers these critical steps, the implications will extend far beyond its shores, shaping the future of international alliances and defense strategies. Kyiv reports a staggering assault by Russia, deploying around 7,400 missiles and 3,700 Shed attack drones. These Iranian-made machines, notorious for their noisy engines, are increasingly targeting Ukraine's infrastructure, far beyond the front lines. Despite the overwhelming odds, Ukrainian air defenses have demonstrated resilience, downing 1,600 missiles and 2,900 drones. Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ihnat emphasizes the struggle against a formidable aggressor, adapting rapidly to the evolving threats. The influx of cheaply produced drones presents a tactical and economic dilemma. They are difficult to detect and expensive to intercept. Ukraine has had to innovate, deploying everything from machine guns to submachine guns in a desperate bid to protect its skies. Russia claims its focus is on military targets, yet the reality on the ground reveals a grim picture of civilian casualties and infrastructure damage. The war has forced Ukraine to continuously adapt its defense strategies against an adversary leveraging both advanced technology and sheer numbers. The international community watches as evidence surfaces of Russia setting up its shade production facilities. This development not only intensifies the war, but also raises questions about the proliferation and regulation of such deadly technology. As the war rages on, the story of these drones is a stark reminder of the evolving nature of modern conflict and the pressing need for robust defense and international cooperation. As the war with Ukraine grinds into a prolonged stalemate, calls for a ceasefire grow louder. Yet skeptics argue Russia might use the pause only to rest, rearm, and relaunch its military efforts. In a post-conflict scenario, President Putin would face formidable internal challenges. These range from economic stagnation and a declining labor force to social unrest and political legitimacy, all potentially curbing his ability to wage renewed warfare. Russia's economy, already weakened by years of sanctions and over-reliance on commodity exports, now faces the compounded burdens of war. A labor shortage, inflation, and unsustainable war spending are tightening the noose, with the public increasingly concerned about the economic downturn. The war has shattered the social contract of stability and non-intrusion that once underpinned Putin's regime. As nationalistic fervor wanes, the reality of casualties and economic hardship could turn public sentiment inward, demanding accountability and change. For Putin, navigating a post-ceasefire Russia means contending with a laborious path to economic recovery and a populace weary of conflict. The longevity of his regime and the country's stability hang in the balance, making the decision to resume hostilities far from straightforward. On the international stage, Russia's future actions are a subject of intense speculation. Western leaders ponder whether a ceasefire would merely be a strategic pause or a genuine step toward lasting peace, with implications for security and diplomacy worldwide. As the situation unfolds, the world watches, hoping for peace yet preparing for uncertainty. What comes after a ceasefire is as much a question of international concern as it is of Russian strategy. As the 7-day ceasefire expires, Gaza awakens to the echo of gunfire and the roar of airstrikes. Rockets pierce the sky towards southern Israel, signaling a violent end to a brief moment of respite. Hamas and Israel exchange blame for the renewed violence, a conflict that has already exacted a heavy toll. Over 14,800 lives lost, hospitals overflowing with the wounded, and the psychological scars of war etched deep into the populace. The world reacts with dismay as UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expresses deep regret over the collapse of peace. Calls for a renewed ceasefire grow louder amidst the rising smoke of conflict. Israel accuses Hamas of breaching the truce by holding hostages, while Hamas retorts, blaming Israel for obstructing vital fuel supplies. This tit-for-tat accusation does little to quell the fires of war. The humanitarian situation teeters on the brink of catastrophe. Hospitals, already scenes from a horror film, struggle to cope with the influx of casualties. The UNICEF warns of an impending disaster, urging for peace to avert further suffering. As the violence escalates, Israel's military issues stark warnings to Gaza's residents, mapping out zones for evacuation in anticipation of more intense military actions. The specter of further civilian casualties looms large, a grim reminder of the war's indiscriminate nature. In this land where hope and despair are constant companions, the path to peace remains elusive. As the international community looks on, the people of Gaza and Israel brace for what the future holds. After blunting Ukraine's summer counteroffensive, Russia is now bolstering its forces, preparing for operations that may aim to extend gains in the east and target Ukraine's critical infrastructure. Putin's strategy appears twofold: apply unyielding military pressure while exploiting shifting Western politics and global distractions. The hope? Weaken international support for Ukraine and press Kyiv into concessions. As an aid package stalls in the U.S. Congress and the EU hesitates on financial support, Russia senses an opportunity. However, it faces its own dilemmas, with stretched resources and a need for massive force to make significant territorial advances. On the ground, the conflict is brutal. Russian forces mount offensives around key locations like Kupiansk and Avdiivka, while Ukraine's defenses, though resilient and fortified, are tested by continuous assaults. The approaching winter brings new challenges. Russia may leverage its rebuilt missile stockpiles and drone capabilities to strike at Ukraine's energy grid and infrastructure, aiming to weaken resolve during the harsh months. The world watches as this conflict shapes not just Eastern Europe but global security dynamics. Western nations debate the extent of support, while Russia eyes a long-term strategy beyond the immediate battlefield. In this chess game of war and diplomacy, every move has profound consequences. As we've journeyed across continents, from the escalating tensions in Eastern Europe to the strategic shifts in Asia and the persistent unrest in the Middle East, we've uncovered the complex layers that shape our world. Each story, each city, Each decision carries with it the weight of history and the potential to shape our future. But understanding these global dynamics isn't just about staying informed. It's about being part of a conversation that values truth, insight, and the relentless pursuit of clarity. This is where Geoland stands apart. Our channel is committed to delivering exclusive content that goes beyond the surface. We dive deep into the geopolitical currents, offering nuanced perspectives that mainstream narratives often overlook. Our commitment to sharing the truth is why we choose to remain anonymous. It's not about us. It's about the stories that need to be told. Every view, every share, and every subscriber doesn't just grow our channel. It amplifies our collective quest for knowledge and truth. Your support enables us to dig deeper, reach further, and refine our content to shed light on the world's most pressing issues. On Geoland, we're more than a channel. We're a growing community of curious minds and critical thinkers. Together, we're not just watching the world. We're engaging with it, questioning it, and understanding it better with every video we share. Thank you for being part of this journey. Remember, every share helps us grow and improve, bringing more of the world's hidden truths into light. You're not just a viewer. You're a vital member of the Geoland community, where every story takes you closer to the heart of what truly matters. Stay tuned, stay curious, and continue to support us on this path of discovery and insight. This is Geoland, where every piece of knowledge helps shape a more informed tomorrow.